Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Bud Krszjzaniek. I'm Eric Krszjzaniek's grandfather. He wants to hear about my war experiences, but I'm not no great war hero. Uh, I turned 18 in the middle of the Great Lakes on the ore boats. I registered for the draft in Two Harbors, Minnesota in 1943. And I was sworn in the Army in February 4th, or went to active duty February 4th, 1944. We went to Fort Sheridan, Illinois. They issued us all winter clothes, and we ended up in Camp Blanding, Florida. I took my basic training there, and then they just passed a law that you had to be over 18 to be shipped overseas. So I was sent to Fort Benning, Georgia, where we trained to be as an infantry division, and we shipped to the European theater out of New York. We've seen the Statue of Liberty for the last time, and I think that, I don't know for sure what month that was. It took about over a month to get over there because it was during the war. We ended up in Le Havre, France. That's right across the English Channel. And we went to a camp that was called Camp Old Gold in Doudeville, France.
Did you want to show it on the map there, your path?
Yeah. It was all mud in that area. Here's where we landed, Doudeville, way over here. And there was an outdoor camp there. We slept in tents. And then we went clear on over to our first action we seen was on the Siegfried Line. And there was at Vichy, France, March 17th. It was Nancy and all the way up through there, Metz, Florida. And it was the Siegfried Line was a great big trench, and it had barbed wire and had gun emplacements. And it was the first time that we had a different ration. The Germans had left some hard bread, we called them dog biscuits, and they had caraway seed in them, so it was a different taste. And then we traveled. Mostly, I was in a heavy weapons company. I was a second gunner on the 81 millimeter mortar. It was a heavy tube. There was 3 gunners. There was the first gunner, second gunner, and third gunner, and then there was ammunition carriers. The first 3 guys got to ride in the Jeep if you had one, and the rest of them had to walk or travel by truck. And we went all the way clear across France, Germany, and Austria. And some of the places we was at was Regensburg, Goldberg, Kölnbach, Bayreuth, and that was in April yet. And this 22nd of April was up at Amberg. And we went to, there's so many German names you can't even pronounce them all. And Holbrook, and we ended up, we crossed a bunch of rivers. They was on pontoon bridges because the rest of it was all blowed up and gone, so they had pontoon bridges. And as this division, we ended up in Steyr, Austria. That's where we met the Russians on the Eans River. And we met, I was in the 3rd Army under George S. Patton. We called him Old Blood and Guts, but he was a really tough general. I met him when he was over there, and I was also there when Roosevelt passed away.
What did you think about that?
Oh, we thought it was kind of scary at that time, but wasn't nothing we could do about it. And then we went into on this trip through, we evacuated a bunch of prisoners of war, and they was just about starved to death. Nothing but skins and bones. I've had pictures of them, but I don't know where they are at this time.
Were these Jewish?
Pardon?
Were they the Jewish?
It was all different nationalities.
All different.
And we didn't have no real great battles. I have 2 battle stars, different. It was moving real fast by the time we got there. Some of it was traveled by truck, and a lot of them walked. And Germany's a lot like the state of Wisconsin. It's a beautiful terrain, but there's no waste there. You go through a woods and you don't trip over all the down brush and all the old logs and stuff there. It was all picked up and used. We dined in a lot of German homes. They'd already left, and we cooked what food was there. One morning we had to dig in, and in the morning we woke up and the whole field was covered with feather ticks and mattress. It was cold out. We'd taken them away from the German homes. And I had our clothes never caught up with us for over 2 months, so we had the same clothes, all we had. So I boiled my pants, and they shrunk up about a foot. So that's what I had to wear. I boiled them in soap water in a garbage can. And our steel helmet was our main meal. We shaved in it, bathed in it, and a few other odd things. Not mentionable in a review. And well, then after the war, we was stationed in a small town. I don't remember the name of the town, but we was guarding a displaced person camp. They was prisoners, but they had no place to go. And was also guarding a highway. We stopped all traffic come through and make sure we knew what they were supposed to be doing. There, the farms was all in small localities, and it was very interesting. But then we was training I got switched to a different outfit because the division was being dissolved, and we was training to go to Japan for that war. But thank God it ended before we got a chance to go. So then after the war, I got to be a light truck driver, and I got to transport with a guard the high Nazi criminals from different parts of Germany on the Autobahn. And that Autobahn is a lot like I-94, 4 lanes, and you can drive any speed you want to go over there. It was a great highway. It's the first one in the that's how the Germans traveled so fast, but all they had was horses and all odd stuff to pull them with. So, and then after that, I was in an accident outside of Dachau, Germany, by the concentration camp there, where they burned all the bodies, where the big incinerators was.
Did you know about that during the war, what they were doing?
Yes, well, afterwards we did. At the time we didn't.
No.
So I ended up in Munich Hospital in Germany for 63 days. In 1945, I spent Christmas in the hospital, and I was supposed to have been sent home. So all my mail was sent home, and nobody knew where I was. So then after that, we stood some guard duty, and I done some more driving, and then I was shipped home on points. I was very lucky. I got on an early shipment, and we ended in Camp Kilmer, New Jersey, first part of May, and I got shipped from there to Camp McCoy, Wisconsin, and I was discharged from there. But there's lots of, and now the company of us guys have been getting together in a different place for the last 21 years. It's getting to be few of us, but we have a really good time as family. It's just after Labor Day weekend, and it's very enjoyable. We fight the same old battles we always did. add a few more to it. Otherwise, I had good conduct medal, combat infantryman badge, good conduct medal, European theater badge.
Can you show them to us?
These are our dog tags. Everybody was required to wear these. Your blood type was on it, your religion was on it, and your Arnold serial number was on it. And if someone was killed, sometimes that was all that left them. It was his dog tag, so they knew who he was. But you had to wear these at all times, regardless of what. So these was issued from, well, I wore them for 2.5 years, I guess. And this was about the prettiest badge. This was a combat infantryman badge. Everybody that served in the infantry got one. Supposed to hold the rifle right side up. See?
Yeah.
But otherwise, there was no important medals. I wasn't a great war hero. This is over in Germany. Everything was swastikas. I brought back a 32 pistol from there. You had to sign a slip to get permission to bring them back to the States.
Right.
This was called battle stars. This was the battles that our regiment was in. We were very fortunate. We went over to the division. Most of the fellows I trained with in Camp Blending went over as replacements, and they never came back alive. The action was still on the early stages. But by the time we got there, it wasn't all roses, but the first action we seen was on the Siegfried line.
Yeah.
And we moved in at night, and one of the fellows went to wake another guy up for guard duty, and he up and shot him. They hauled him away on the hood of a Jeep. One of our own men got scared and up and shot him, so that's the last we ever heard of him. We was going through the woods, and some of us riding on tanks at that time if we didn't have a Jeep, and a German sniper shot a guy standing right next to us, killed him dead. Of course, he didn't last long either, but I mean the German didn't.
Right.
So I really don't know. We spent I got a chance to be a Jeep driver after the war, so we had a chance to take weekend passes and stuff, and I had a Jeep and it took 2 or 3 other guys with me. This is a picture of Hitler's retreat up in it's a resort area. I think it was called Berchtesgaden. And we was up in the mountains. It's a picture of me and 2 or 3 other fellows. Some of them are still living yet. Here's a picture of some Austrian musicians over there. They always dressed up like this. This is a picture of up in the mountains. It's really, and they had a lot of horse carriages. Of course, this was hooked up supposed to be for 2 horses, and they didn't have many horses left. Most of them was killed off. So there's 1 horse, as you can see that, instead of filled, it's got a pole in it. So this is a picture of the mountains. And this was a motel. They had ice cream parlors there. It was taken after the war. It was really a nice weekend. You get to see things that you'd never seen before. And I would love to go back sometime, but maybe I will yet. I don't know, Eric, you got any questions?
So
Discharged in May 4th of 1946.
and that was how long after the war ended?
Well, it ended in 45, so
Right.
it was put a year later. Well, just about exactly a little bit less than a year later. So.
Did you?
It was occupational over there then,
Right.
and the United States still has a lot of troops over there.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So,
But otherwise, my history ain't very great. I still have my Army uniform, but needless to say, it's a little bit small now. I think it's even too small for Eric.
let's see. Did did you know at the time how the war had ended in Japan? About the after effects that would
Yes,
result?
we found out as soon as they dropped the bomb. Well, then we knew it was over. So
Yeah.
I was sitting reading the Stars and Stripes magazine. I had a picture at one time of me sitting there when they announced that the war was over there. So, but then it took a long time for everybody to get home because there were so many over there.
It must have been a great relief knowing that you wouldn't have
It
to.
was a great relief not to have to go to Japan yet too, because I get seasick.
Yeah.
We went over on troop ships, and going over it was a zigzag course, so it took a long time to get over there, but coming back it was more of a straight shot.
Right.
So, and going over, they had me guarding a station wagon down the whole of the ship out in the middle of the ocean and no place for it to go, but that was the job. Coming back, I come back, and they couldn't say Krszjzaniek, so I stayed in my sack until I got real hungry. Then I got out because I got seasick all the time.
Right.
You have any other questions?
Did you liberate any of the Jewish?
Yes, we liberated a concentration camp, and they were so hungry. There was a dead horse there, and they didn't even bother to cook it. They just hacked it up and ate it raw.
Well-
And they kissed you and mobbed you, and it was really skinny.
Really? Was it a greater?
It was there was Jews, and it was everything. It was
Right.
prisoners of war. And everything was traveled by train over there. It was real narrow gauge, and they had us guarding railroad bridges and highways, and I think it was more or less something to do.
Busy work type stuff.
Yeah, keep you busy. But we had a lot of training too. It was, of course, you went to a different outfit. It was all different again. So
Yeah. So how did you readjust to life back home in the U.S. after the war?
I was home for 1 week, and I went to work. I couldn't stand to lay around. I went to work at a factory, pressure cooker. Worked there for 2 years, I guess. I got married in 1947. Still living with my wife. And she's living with me.
Wow.
But this is supposed to be serious.
But it's serious.
That's serious.
You can blip that out if you
Yeah.
want.
How'd you meet to your wife?
I was sitting on the street corner, and she come walking by going to a show.
Yeah.
And I thought she was a good-looking redhead, so
So, tell how you benefited from the GI Bill. That was.
oh, the GI Bill I thought was great. I was born and raised in town, and I had 4 years on-the-job training. It helped me get started farming. Without it, I could never survive because I started with 13 cows on half, and we had a good instructor. He would help us do this and do that, and we tested milk, and then I ended up as a dairy farmer for 30 years. Raised 7 children, and it was all part of the family dairy operation.
So the GI Bill got you started on the
If you
family.
made use of it, it was really good, but some people misused it. Most of them used up the money, and well, they had what they called a 52 something club, and you got so much a month for 52 weeks, I guess it was, so much a week, and they never went to work until the money was all spent.
Yeah.
So, but I never was one to lay around, so I went to work right away. So, but the GI Bill, if you made use of it, I trained under the Public Law 16, seeing I had a disability. I qualified for that. Otherwise, it went by the years of length of time you served in the service. So I started out with less time, but then I got to be under Public Law 16, so I got to do it for 4 years, which is very beneficial to me. You learn new modern ways of farming instead of just the old ways. A lot of my comrades, they used up their benefits and then they quit farming, so it's like anything else, you have to make use of it. It's not going to do you any good.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I can't think of much else in my life. Can you think of anything you want to ask me?
I'd have to. Just a second.
July of 1945, it was after the war ended, and this is just a crude map of where just our regiment traveled. It's there's better ones some places, but it shows where the battles was and different things like that. Here you're going across the Danube River. That was a crossing that was hard to make. A lot of them was made at night. Here's a picture of the bridge that's collapsed outside of Munich. Here's Munich down here. That's where I was in the hospital for 63 days. We had it was a German hospital. It was they had American nurses in it and Catholic sisters. See, it's.
Did you befriend anyone in the hospital? To make friends or?
Well, no, you're just anxious to get in and get out. That's about the size of it. I was in a emergency room for a long time, and you want to get out of there just as soon as you could.
Yeah.
Nobody, some of them didn't speak English. There was every kind of people there was in there. One fellow had tubes down his throat and down his nose, and he couldn't speak English, and no nurses around, and I hollered, "Get me out of here!" So I finally got moved out of that room. He sat up in bed and started reeling out all the hoses. So it wasn't a fun place to be, but we had good care. On Christmas Eve, the American nurse came in and sang Christmas carols to us. I think there was 8 or 10 of us in that room, in the emergency room. So
And that was sent to your sister while you were in hospital?
that
There.
was in Germany, in Munich. That was,
Oh, the map. I mean,
yeah, this was sent after. Well, it was sent before that because this was sent in July of '45, and I didn't go in the hospital until November of '45.
all right.
And I was there for Christmas, and I come out sometime, and I went back to my outfit, and then I come home on points. So
All right. Okay. Have you ever had any nightmares or such from after the war
oh, yeah,
experiences?
you still dream about it lots of times. I think the most part of it, best part of all of it now, we still get to see some of our personal friends that was accompanying in our squad, like my squad leader. He lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We get together at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, and we've made all the reunions except for 2, I guess. We've been all over the U.S. We've been Laughlin, Nevada, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Portland, Oregon, Las Vegas, Rapid City, South Dakota, Wisconsin. Someone sponsors it different every year, and then we just have a weekend of fun. Used to be a lot of drinkers. Now nobody drinks anymore, and nobody smokes anymore. We're all old. I'm the youngest one in the outfit, and I'm going on 73. Some of them are up in their 80s, and we've lost a lot of them.
Oh, what was the name of the outfit? The
Company D, 14th Infantry.
All right.
71st Infantry Division.
Let's see. Did you ever go through Dresden? Do you know about the bombings of Dresden? Did you know about when when that happened?
Well, you know, being an infantry outfit, the bombing was usually done before we ever got there. You heard a lot of strafing, and their mortars was, we called them screaming meanies. They made an awful racket when they went over.
Oh yeah.
But the real battles was all over with before we ever got there. So,
Yeah.
but in a division, one division takes care of quite a few people, so you got you got different regiments in your division and everything, and some of them had it worse than we did, because we was a heavy weapons company. The dog soldiers, the infantry was, the mortars would clear a path up ahead. Well, if you got good at it, you could just about drop one of them 81 shells down a chimney, and if you learn to adjust your distance, it was the most important part.
Yeah.
And I only got to be a PFC in them days. Someone had to die ahead of you, or you couldn't get a rating, because you only had so many in a squad. You had a staff sergeant, a corporal, and then you was down to PFC. So then a lot of them just ended up as be privates.
Did you ever get used to seeing all the people dying around you?
I think the first dead soldier I seen was on the Siegfried line, just on the France border. Dead soldiers laying around, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Something you expect to see, so you just don't.
Think about it too much.
No.
Yeah. See what, is there anything else that you could think of, or?
No, probably tomorrow morning I'll think of something, but then you think a lot of these things at night when you wake up and lay there not sleeping, and you wonder what this was and that was, but it would be fun to go back to Europe. It's all built over now. The streets was real narrow, and the farming community was backwards. The farming was really backwards. So everybody had 3, 4, 5 cows, and they was kept right in the village, and then they was chased out to pasture every day, and they had what they call a honey wagon. They had their manure pits and everything right in the yard. That was pumped out liquid. But here they have them here too, but Germany's had them a long time ago, and they had wooden barrows there. It wasn't pulled by tractors, it was pulled by an oxen or one horse. So most of the horses the army had taken, so they didn't have nothing to farm with. But that was collective farming, owned by the government, and it was big operations, but they was run sloppy.
Oh, so it's type of, that was in Germany?
Yeah.
So it's type of communalism type.
Yeah,
Communism.
it's the same way Russia is now, I guess. They still,
Right.
government tries to run it, and you don't get nothing done. And they can't even feed their own people, let alone feed any other nation. So.
What was it like meeting the Russians on the, what area was
you never
that?
even get to see them, because
Oh,
they
yeah.
was over, they was on one side and we was on the other. So,
And that was driving back SS troops, or?
yeah, they was all SS troops. I had a lot of souvenirs that I brought home there, but when I was in the hospital, they thought I'd gone home, so everything was divided up and stolen, so I never got it back at all. Otherwise, some fellows sent home everything you could think of, china and cameras, and took pictures. And we had a lot of good times too after the war. It was weekend passes, and I was supposed to the weekend after I got hurt, I was supposed to have been scheduled to go to Norway for a weekend, and that would have been real interesting. See, all your countries are close together over there, and you could go on a weekend pass or furlough. You had so many days coming. That's back when cigarettes over there was 10 cents a pack.
A lot of smoking.
Everybody smoked when here, but nowadays they don't. I quit 50-some years ago.
Yeah.
50 years ago in October I quit smoking.
Uh,
And they was buying in the store then for 10 or 15 cents a pack, so things have changed now. They're $2 and something a pack.
was there was religion a factor in your fighting, or was there a lot?
No.
No.
As far as religion, there was a Catholic religion and there was a Jewish religion, and I was a Protestant, that's Lutheran, so that took care of all of them. Our church services was held outside, usually out in the open, and we did have church services once in a real big Catholic church over there, and it was really a beautiful church. But a lot of them was demolished, but there wasn't too much religion over there. In them days, they didn't have no religion. Hitler was all the religion they had.
Yeah.
He told them what to think and what not to think.
What did you think of that? About that?
Well, it's wrong. I mean,
Right.
I've always been a good Christian, but we had our worship services anyway. That the guys that wanted to go, we held them outside and sitting on the grass, sang our songs, and we had a chaplain. Every outfit had their own pastor, or chaplain, Lutheran, or whatever you wanted to go to. So,
What was probably the scariest moment in the war for you?
pardon?
What was the scariest moment in the war for you?
Oh boy. First night on the line, when a guy got shot, then they realized where we was, and it was when they issued you. When we first landed in France, you never even had live ammunition, and you stood guard duty all around your camp and everything, but you never had no ammunition until you got to the front. Of course, there we traveled clear across France to get to where the action was. It had already went. Some towns there wasn't a thing left of. It was just all bombed and shelled. It was just, well, you'd seen them on movies, but they have nowadays, so I don't know. How about that was the next outfit I was in. This is the 71st. This is the one I was in. Grandpa, it's all wool, so it's shrunk.
Nice overcoat.
Overcoat, shirt, pants, summer shirt. This was, and you all had one for your jacket and everything. See, it says the right of the line, 14th Infantry. This is made into a belt buckle by one of the guys. He sold them after the war. But that would have been the same as this one. So you had one of these to wear on your label of your jacket. That's what that was for.
Okay. Okay. Show the outfit out for the people watching at home. You didn't describe some of the other emblems in here.
Well, this was the division we was in. This represents a division,
Right.
and this represents a discharge, and this represents the 3 battles that we participated in. If you was having a long, you could have 6 inches of that if you was in a lot of different battles. And this is your winter. This is all your winter clothes. Winter shirt, winter pants. The size is 31-31. They don't fit anymore. This is the winter clothes. It weighs about 20-25 pounds, I suppose. And everything you had this was new when I discharged. Otherwise, you would have your stripes what rank you was. This was private first class.
Okay.
And then the summer outfit was khaki. In them days, we all traveled by rail, you know, and the train was all coal-fired. So, and nobody got up and gave a soldier a seat. You stood up like everybody else did.
Yeah.
But you could go from Chicago to Eau Claire for $10, which you can't do nowadays. So everything has changed.
Good. So who are the people in the picture?
Well, this is Donald E. Mertinke from Route 1 Oliva, and I was next, Laverne R. Krszjzaniek from Osseo, William H. Lang, Eau Claire, and Dale F. Ross from Augusta, and Paul T. Johnson, Summit Street, and Henry D. Summit State Street road, and they was from Eau Claire, the other ones. The other ones was a different outfit.
Okay.